one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it, because you can.
We get this story from the News Tribune. The Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs announced last Thursday it would consider expelling Pierce County Sheriff Keith Swank from the organization, saying his testimony before a state Senate committee could be seen as threatening to legislators. What? Swank spoke at the State House last Thursday afternoon in Olympia, Washington, to oppose a bill that would create stricter eligibility requirements for police chiefs, marshals, and sheriffs, and remove elected sheriffs from office if the Criminal Justice Training Commission revokes their certification as law enforcement officers. In his comments before the Senate Committee on Law and Justice, Swank told lawmakers he didn't recognize their authority to impose these controls on him. He said, when you try to remove me from office, thousands of Pierce County residents will surround the county city building in downtown Tacoma and will not allow that to happen, said Swank. He said, I hope it doesn't come to that, but I and they are prepared. Are you prepared? Swank also addressed a different bill that would generally ban law enforcement from wearing masks or face coverings. He told legislators his deputies don't wear masks, but if the bill becomes law, he will encourage them to wear masks just to see what the legislator will do. In a joint statement last Thursday evening, the president of the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, or WASP-C, Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles and Executive Director Stephen Strachan said their organization had grave concerns about Senate Bill 5974, but that Swank's inflammatory comments did not represent the WASPC views or approach. They said the scope of his testimony went beyond reasonable dialogue and devolved into what could be perceived as threatening to legislators, and he challenged their constitutional authority. They said the manner in which he conducted himself was not in line with professional behavior we expect of members. We know that all public servants are subject to their oaths of office and the rule of law. Now, the law enforcement leaders said the WASPC, that's the sheriffs and police chiefs, intends to start proceedings for its board to consider expelling Swank. The executive board that leads the WASPC includes sheriffs and police chiefs leading agencies in cities, counties, and tribal communities from across the state of Washington. The special agent in charge of the FBI's Seattle field office, and the chief of the state patrol, along with Strachan. Swank said he didn't think his comments before the state Senate committee were threatening. Asked about a statement that residents would surround a building if the state tried to remove him from office, Swank emphasized that he didn't say he would make that happen. Reminds me of January 6th, doesn't it? Swank said that would be a crisis. His opposition to the bill is in part about the fact that it would create eligibility requirements for sheriffs that are more rigorous than those in place for many other elected officials. He said, you're going to pass this qualification bill for law enforcement, but you won't hold yourselves accountable, said Swank to the state Senate committee. He said, therefore, propose everyone who runs for public office go through a background check, a social media review, a polygraph, and a psychological test. It's also about the fact that the bill threatens Swank's position as sheriff. The Criminal Justice Training Commission said in September that Swank was the subject of 3 investigations, which could lead to his decertification as a law enforcement officer. Said that currently wouldn't affect his position as sheriff, but if he was decertified and Senate Bill 5974 is signed into law, the original text of the bill says his office would be vacated. Swank addressed the certification cases at a news conference last week in Puyallup. It was in a Puyallup church with the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Said one of the things that would be disqualifying would be hate speech, said Swank. You know, the stuff I post on X, such as trans women or men, they want to decertify me for that. And if they pass this legislation, then they can decertify me and then remove me from office. Swank said he is not a member of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. According to the state's United Democracy Center, a nonpartisan nonprofit, the Constitutional Sheriffs Movement contends that a sheriff's law enforcement powers supersede those of any elected official at any level of government. He said in a sworn deposition Swank gave last month in Pierce County's lawsuit against Joan Mell, who's a private attorney that tried to represent Swank in his official business, Swank said he believes in abiding by the Constitution, and he doesn't use the term constitutional sheriff to describe himself because it has a bad connotation. He said, I believe every sheriff, every law enforcement official, and deputies too, should abide by the U.S. Constitution and the Washington State Constitution when they're doing police work. Now, the sheriff has feuded with other elected officials in Pierce County since he took office in January of 2025. In May, Mell sent a letter on Swank's behalf to County Executive Ryan Mello, Prosecutor Mary Robnett, and County Council Chair Janie Hitchen. It demanded mediation on 6 issues and asserted that the sheriff's office did not have to comply with orders issued by Mello, particularly one that outlined how federal contracts should be reviewed and approved. Swank also used his speech at the Puyallup News Conference to speak about the WASPC, which he has privately railed against in text messages with Mell, his attorney, calling the organization a bunch of libtards. That's the new term. Swank said very few people in WASPC agree with him. At a recent meeting, he said members said lawmakers would pass the bill about eligibility requirements for sheriff, and they would compromise with them and help them write up the qualifications. He said, I told them you should never compromise with them at all. Because if you look at the Constitution, in order to run for president, what do you need to be? Born here and 35 years old. Why would we make any requirements more so on the sheriff than we would on the president of the United States? Yeah, to be United States president, you got to be born in the United States and be 35 years old or older. And he goes, so why would we, the sheriff should be born in I'll say in the United States and be 35. That's it. So the sheriff, you don't have to be a law enforcement officer and all that. What? I don't know. I got lost in that. But the bottom line here, and there's so much here and I don't want to belabor this, so I'm just going to end it with this to let you chew on this here, is his initial statement that he said, look, man, you guys, because obviously they said they were investigating him and they were thinking about decertifying him. That's why he's targeting this decertification requirement, right? But he said, if you take me out of office, if you decertify me and I'm no longer a sheriff, people they're gonna surround the county and city building. They're coming. They're gonna take out the county capital, as it were. They're coming, And then when they said, well, look what you're doing. You're creating a scene. You're saying people, I'm not telling them to do it. And like I said, kind of rings January 6th, 2021, doesn't it? I don't know. What do you think?